Good. Good to hear you. Good to see you.
All right. You can set me up because I'm. What the hell is this right here?
Repeat.
Okay.
Say that again.
Yep.
You can hear
I
me?
can see.
Testing, testing. You
I
can
can.
hear me?
All right. Well, you're breaking up.
Is this
All
better?
right. Yeah.
Bingo. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Bingo. I can see you.
Well, there you go. I'm trying to. All right. How was your Thanksgiving, man?
It was good, 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 man. Family, food, traditional Thanksgiving
Yeah.
with the turkey and the mac, and the candy yams and the stuffing. And you know what? You can't forget the greens. Can't
Yeah,
forget the
that's not what you're
greens.
supposed to be eating all the time, but once in a while it's good, man. So I've learned to downsize my plate.
You know what? Me too.
Yeah.
Downsize it and go and get a second plate and keep that small.
Yeah.
To your stomach and to your body, that counts as just one big plate at the end of the night.
Hope so. But I did good.
Yeah.
I didn't have a real big to-go plate, so I did real good.
There you go. Miss Rita, welcome.
How you doing this evening?
Good, good, good. You glad you're able to tune in and zoom in tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I always try to start this off playing a little music. I'm a house head, Miss Rita. And brother Ellison is, one of the most unsung DJs back in the day. Yeah. Get my spirits up for this BFDK podcast. Coming tonight, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Tune in for the next 45 minutes. Sit down and have these conversations. I got a host of questions, comments, and thoughts tonight that I want to give this esteemed panel that has chosen to lock in tonight, and ask these BFDK questions, that I kind of rise and bring about. We're going to start tonight with, introduction. I have here live Mr. Larry Ellison all the way from Chi-Town, Chicago, Illinois. My brother from another mother, my teammate, both in high school and in college. We tore stuff up out there in Montana, man.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Have a real good time.
We tore stuff up out there.
Yeah, it was kind of an early cultural experience.
Yes, it was.
So coming from the inner city,
Minimum
to
volume.
wide open west.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is a whole different way of living.
There you go. And then I have Miss Rita, my comrade in education and being, partners in crime and, at Cedar Hill Prep and summer camps, Miss Rita's always on point. She's been a tuner into this BFDK from day one. I want to thank you for that, Miss Rita.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes. I know there's some other people are going to tune in tonight, so let's get started. I just want to, pose a couple of questions, tonight. And these are just based off of my thoughts as a BFDK, as a black father, dad, and a king, And the first one is just basically, are there any things you wish you had done differently as, a mom, dad, Miss Rita, and my brother Larry as a BFDK? I repeat that. Just, are there things that you wish you had done different, as a father, as a dad, as a mom, dad, as a king and a queen? We can start with you first, Miss Rita.
Different as far as raising my children, or just different in general?
Different in both, in general, and raising your kings.
Oh, hindsight is always 2020. um, I think being a little bit more conscious
Right.
and aware of, and making sure my sons had more of a stronger male influence in their lives. They had a village, but when you look back and like, I could have done things a little different. I had them around, other people and per se, especially with my youngest son, because they both are different in so many, in a lot of different ways in how they view life. And my thing is like, I don't want you to stress over, life is just life. Things are going to happen, roll with the punches, and maybe having more of a male influence in their lives to help them and guide them in that way. Because I'm thinking the men that I have around were more awoke than maybe they were, but they only got what they got.
Right.
Because that's where they were. And maybe exposing them a little bit earlier to a lot more different places and things, and being able to experience more of different people, places, things. And financially, learning more how to save money, invest money. That's not something that is talked about, I think, enough.
Right.
Like surface stuff, but we need to, as black people being here, we're not necessarily afforded to be able to get the property like everybody else.
Right.
There's struggles there when we want to open up our own business, and being very real and candid about that. And finance, how do you spend your money? How do you invest your money? Getting and putting, my sons in a position where they are not, quote unquote, going to have to struggle as hard financially. I mean, they're doing all right, but like everybody else, to be able to understand the value of the dollar and taking your money and not just investing in it here, but investing in it, on the continent, and building businesses and making sure our children are passing it on.
Mm-hmm.
And not just for them, but myself also. I'm getting older now, and so financially, like, hey, that 401k, who was talking to me about a 401k back in the day?
Right.
And investing and buying property, and even if it's a little bit of property, and taking that property and working with people. What annoys me is all these quote unquote black organizations, if you will, and I understand that they're under the same system that I was raised up in.
Right.
And they don't have one hotel. They have conferences every year.
Mm-hmm.
Folks from around the world to attend these conferences every year, and we don't own one hotel.
Well,
Get a hotel.
I think that there's,
Boat.
I'm not sure, not to cut you off, Ms. Rita, I'm not sure, but I think there's he's neither an entertainer or an athlete or, hip hop artist who actually purchased, you know who it was? I believe it was Pharrell Williams.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he purchased a hotel.
Okay.
Now, at what level that hotel is, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you if it's at the level of the Hilton or the Hyatt or the Hard Rock. I don't know, but I know that he's a prime investor, in a hotel, so I do know that there's at least one. I'm hoping, like you said, that they, are many who would be willing to invest in a profitable business like that, black owned. And
But not to cut you off, not even just to invest. I'm not talking about going out and buying into some somebody else's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep it 100. We have the black sororities and fraternities. They've been around, and they are proud to talk about the years that they've been around and the year that they were founded. And y'all don't own a hotel, motel, boat, car. Coming together collective, you have all this knowledge. You have architects, you have basics, we have everything that we need within these organizations to build our own, to buy our own land, to invest in ourselves. And why aren't we doing that? I didn't pledge because that. I mean, young and having the foresight to say, I don't do together, but yet we're still separate.
Right.
I don't need to be a part of something that's still going to be. I don't like them because they're not a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're still under the same struggles. So I love our sisters and brothers, but I'm just still trying to understand. Like, at what point are we going to really wake all the way up?
Exactly.
Say, you know what? They got the money. It ain't like
Right.
they ain't got the money.
Exactly.
So I commend the brother in buying the hotel. Or investing in a hotel, but raising our children to say, you know what, we can do this. But my sister and I were just talking about that. It's like, I think it's somewhat maybe a little bit of a fear because we went through the whole Wall Street thing.
Right.
And like, that could easily happen again.
Mm-hmm.
The more things change, the more things stay the same. Ain't nothing really, changed. The sister was on BAI today. The question was, should we leave America? You know what?
It's real interesting.
Because this country will fall in 5 minutes. We all got on the plane to say,
Exactly.
Out of here. Take all of our knowledge and take it back home to build home up.
Right.
This will crumble in a matter of 5. I bet you they'd be giving out loans. They won't even be giving out. Here's all your reparations, please.
Right. See, and again, to understand the power of the black dollar and to understand the power that we have as a people of color, descendants of Africa and the descendants of South America and the Caribbean, we are still in that stage of trying to figure out where we belong, where we fit in. And we should be far ahead of where we are now from a mental and a spiritual and a financial situation. We should be a lot further ahead. But for every time we push and make that push as a group, something happens. And sometimes it happens with internally, versus external forces. And it causes us to have this question, what's our issue with uniting? Especially when it comes to us as black men, and back to that original question, what would we do differently, if you had a chance to do it differently? Let me go to my brother, Larry, and just ask him that question, are there things that you wish you had done differently, at this stage of being a BFDK?
Well, first and foremost, I'm just going to extend upon what you and Trey was talking about. Get into that question. Pharrell has a hotel in Miami Beach. It's a 266-room hotel that I just looked it up. So it's in Miami Beach, Florida, 266-room hotel, and the Good Time Hotel. So it's about fun type stuff as opposed to something that's more, conferencing, things of that nature. And the other thing is that Ms. Rita mentioned is that the Black Wall Street type situation, the brainwashing runs deep. And I think what it is because what happens is, it's deep as hell because it's like you can be successful, but you can't make no noise. If you're too successful, make too much noise, the government or the system is going to do something to you. It's going to create a problem.
Right.
So that's why I think that it's just like, you can speak to the people, but you can't do too much unite. Everybody that tried to unite us got sniped. Something happened. Or infiltrate guns deep, and we're so afraid of doing things because we don't want to lose things or have things taken away from us. FBI getting in your ass, the IRS coming down your throat, or somebody doing something.
Right.
That's what I think on that. But when I try to think about the things that I could have done differently, it's really, 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 really hard because, I grew up on the struggle, food stamps, welfare, the whole 9 yards, 3 pair of pants in grammar school, just all that shit to weigh you down. But I was able to overcome that. So when I got to the point of having kids, I wanted to provide. So I'm working. So if there was anything that I wish I probably could have done better was to try to figure out a way to manage working and providing and still be physically present, which is it's hard as hell because you got to get out there and make that money so that they can have a place to stay, so you can provide have these things. And then on the backside, you try to be there, but you got to be at work. So I made as many football games as I can, camps, the whole 9 yards, but it's like that nightly thing with the homework, with the dinner, with the conversation. That part was kind of, hit and miss a little bit.
Right.
But so if anything, I wish I would have been able to try to manage my time a lot better. However, coming forward now, I'm more or less just trying to be there, trying to be that light, that information piece as they start navigating their way through life. You know what I'm saying? Because these kids is crazy.
Hey, listen. I'm gonna pose my answer to this question. Things that I wish that I had done differently, and I'm going to throw out my answer to that. And looking at it, understanding that there was no written book or format on how to do this to this point, and looking back, there are hundreds of things that I would do differently, or I would have done differently. One is really communication and listening at the levels in which my sons grew. When they were, little boys, of course, it's dad, hey, do X, Y, Z, do A, B, C, do this 1, 2, 3. It was more or less like, okay, let's give you a form of discipline on how you're going to grow, And then as they got to, middle school, high school, I kind of became that sports dad, okay, if you're choosing a sport or an activity that you're going to do, you're going to go at it 100%, and if you don't, okay, we got to figure out something for you to do to not just keep your mind active academically and structurally, but to put around you different avenues of things that you can do. And my thing is, I'm thinking forward, if I get you involved in this 4 or 5 years from now, you take that interest up, where could you be with that? What could you be doing with that? And then as they went to college and, did their thing there, were athletes, students, and now they're, these grown men, 29 and 30 years old, there was a lack of communication on my part, that I wished I could have had with them between that 4 or 5 year period up to now, and it's for me, I'm still learning. I'm learning that they and we both have that, when we communicate, we communicate. My wife will say in a minute, we could be in here talking about something that happened, a current event, sports or something that happened, and we start throwing up statistics. Really? You did that? You know that? Well, if he would have did that or she would have did that, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And it's a lot of times it became combative, And then I had to stop and think that, wow, I don't have, 8-year-olds no more. I don't have 12-year-olds. I don't have 15, 16-year-olds. I don't have a 21-year-old. I have grown men, in which my oldest is a father himself. So I'm still, it hit me real hard that I now have to be this kind of different father, because I'm realizing I'm at a different stage, they're at a different stage, and it's great when our stages cross each other, but then there's times when they don't, and so I'm more or less now sitting back in the listening phase now. I'm trying to hear what they say and listen, have an ear to what they say. And now I ask the question, you want my opinion? You want my opinion on this?
You can't just freely give it no damn more.
Yeah, you can't. You don't. I don't just say, well, this is what I think. I'm saying, you want my opinion? Because and if they say no, I don't say nothing. I don't say nothing.
I don't do that with my sons, but I do that with other people. I just,
Right.
if you ask me, I said, look, if you wanted straight no chaser, because I don't really necessarily always have a good filter.
Right.
But with my sons, and just, I guess the way I've tried to raise them and learning from my own experiences and being open, I said, we can have a conversation about anything, but there has to be respect across the line.
Yes.
Talk about anything, just can't be talking crazy to me, because mama don't do crazy.
Right.
So we pretty much had an open dialogue, even though there's some things they don't say to me. I am not on their Facebook friendship or their social. They will not invite me. I've not asked. I ain't on it, so I don't ask. They don't invite me, and I'm okay with that. And I guess it's a healthy thing that they can do that. You don't need to know everything that I'm saying or thinking.
Right.
Or doing.
Right.
For my siblings or my peers, but being able to, listen to them and hear them differently.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I'm going, they're going to tell me, I'm going, your mama, she might have something to say about it.
Right.
I might not ask you for permission,
Right.
or do you want to hear what I'm thinking? Because usually they'll ask me, Mom, this is going on, or that's going on. So it's open that I can freely give, and I know I'm a mom, and dads are different in how y'all handle things and deal with things, which I am still learning. It's just baffled. And well, you should say, I can't say you should say, because I'm a female interpreting it how I would handle it.
Right.
And sitting saying, these men, y'all do things a little different, and then telling my sisters, you need to pump your brakes on that girl.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what he's doing?
You know what, Miss Rita and Larry? I was watching this video clip, and I don't know if I'm going to get her name right, Shahara Ali. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I know you're talking about. Go ahead.
Okay. And she was talking about, actually having a conversation, or she was, being interviewed, and she was asked about, what's her viewpoint on the black man, and how does she feel about it? And she kind of broke it down. She said, if we, as black females, kind of start pushing our black men away, you will start to destroy the black race. When you start pushing them in a different direction, or they start feeling that they have to go in a different direction, regardless of what it is that's going on, because she's talking to this, this other person who happens to be a female, said, once you start breaking that down, and the black man starts taking a different direction, you start to, deteriorate the black race. And I was sitting there listening to her, but then I also have to go back and be a black man, be a father, be a dad, and say, okay, I owe it to me, I owe it to my sons, I owe it to my wife to secure this thing that we have as a family, as a unit of people of color. Say that again?
Talking to the dog.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. I just wanted to pose that question. I'm going to get to the second question. What do you enjoy most about being a father or a mom, dad? Let's go with you, my brother, Larry Ellison. What do you enjoy most about that?
Well, see, it's kind of funny because I'm at the I told you so stage.
Uh-oh.
It's kind of funny to me to see on those two situations that I gave them information and input on how to navigate and avoid this problem. And here they come facing a problem that we've already talked about. If you did what I told your ass to just back in, we wouldn't be here today.
Right.
So I'm kind of like go open a little bit and be like, really? And then the other part is that when the light bulb comes on,
Mm-hmm.
and they be like, oh yeah, they'll say something. Say, well, where did you hear that from? And they be like, yeah, you told me that. So then they start realizing that the information that I was giving them, that they were kind of half taking in and blocking.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, I should have listened fully to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're at those crossroads with different things going on in their life. Transitioning from jobs or different situations and things like that, getting a real experience about being out here trying to make it in this world and things of that nature. So they're like, man, I should have listened, or yeah, you were right about that. But one of the biggest things that my oldest son told me was a bunch of years ago. He called me and said, Dad, I just want to tell you that when we was talking before, that you were right. You told me a long time ago that, the world ain't gonna really care about me unless if I don't know what I'm doing. And he said, I just kind of had that experience, and you're right. I got to know what I'm doing because ain't nobody gonna be like they're there. They're gonna be all right. So the world is hard out there. So if you ain't got your shit together, you're gonna have a problem. And you realize that.
Right.
Glad that you realize that so you get your shit together. Dude, I'm on a podcast. What are you doing?
Yeah. Let me ask you that, Miss Rita. What do you enjoy most about being, I guess, a mom, dad, mom?
I am a mom. I can't say that I'm a mom, dad, because I am not a man.
Right.
And y'all, we do things different. All I can do as a mom and a conscientious mom, understanding that my sons need a male figure in their life to get them that other half that they need, as well as men that's raising daughters or sons. They need a female figure to help them get those things they need. I am honored and humbled that my sons have chosen me to be their mom, because that's they're here because of the divine.
Right.
So being a mom and learning and just seeing how they think is just like amazing to me. Like, wow, you think like me.
Mm-hmm.
And I raised you, so I understand and how they're viewing the world and just being open to do different experiences and new experiences, and just being sitting back and like viewing life through them.
Right.
And I don't do the I told you so's. I know a lot of times. Well, I don't do that because in learning, just in growing and getting older and understanding, sometimes I'm just the messenger.
Right.
My job is to deliver the message.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my job to make sure that they get it when I say it and how I say it. It's when it's time for them to get it.
Right.
They're going to get it. And I guess the blessing in it all is them coming back to you and saying, I remember when you told me that.
Right.
And so if I say I told you so, they won't feel it. How are they going to keep coming back and giving me the confirmation that what you did that right?
Right.
Did say that right? Yeah, okay. I just needed that confirmation that I'm on the right track and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing as far as helping you along in this realm of the work.
Mm-hmm. Now,
So I enjoy it all. The good, and just
Right.
life, watching them go through life and navigating through life and sitting back and saying, should I say something now? No, this is something they're going to have to go through and trying to, because I'm still being that mother, and I was told, I thought, I think when my son turned 25 and I was around older women in their 70s and 80s, I was like, man, I thought, once they got 25, that was it. You're done with the hands-on and always, whatever mom was doing. And they turned to me and was like, that don't stop. 40, 50, 60. I was like,
no. Because one thing that's fact is that they're always going to be. I always say this to my sons. I said, you guys, I remember you from day one. You only remember me as your father. You only know me from day one as your dad. Okay? My evolution started with you right there. Your evolution started with me from the time you were conceived. So there's things about you. I always tell them, I said, there's parts of your body that you haven't seen that I know I've seen. And they're like, what? I'm like, hey, I changed diapers. I bathed you. I went to the doctors with you, with mom. So, yeah. And my son was like, no. I'm like, yeah. So, again, I know you from the time you came in to the world, and you know me from the time I've been your father. But for the enjoyment part of it, of being a father, what I've gotten out of it is just that. Watching them grow and watching them progress and watching them, come into this manhood thing. And I'm quite sure both of you can attest to this. It happened fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened like, I always say, I go back, I can remember, and every once in a while I'll pop a video in of when they were, 6, 7, 8 years old, and, a party that they had or something like that. And then I'll look at them when they come through the door, these two giants walking through the door, and I'm like, where did the time go? And I ask myself with this question, how much of that did I really, really enjoy? Because it just, to me, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And whatever joy I got out of it, going forward, now it's just like, wow, I love it. One more question. This is my last question of the night, and just want to pose this. What was one of the hardest moments you had being a father, and was it really, really hard? What was one of the moments that you had being a father, and why, should I say, was it hard? We'll go with you first, Miss Rita.
Puberty.
Bingo. Ding, 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 ding.
So I thought I was prepared because I knew it was coming. I thought puberty started after 13.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the time they're 13, they're going to start feeling, I was looking out for certain signs and symptoms. But see, they it started at 11. So I was kind of like lost. Because I was like, well, I thought I had 2 years. I'm in it right now.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, both my sons, I put them out the house. Because I was like, look, it can't be your way.
Right.
It just won't, that's not going to work. So you got to go. Now, I didn't want them to leave. But I was just to that point where I was like, I told you, and I know this is a test, and I understand this is a test, but I hadn't gotten to the point. And my oldest son, who works with adolescents with behavioral issues, he says to me a few years ago, Mom, that wasn't the best way you could have handled that. I said, I know that now, and I knew that then. That's why y'all didn't leave the house, but I was mad. So you were doing what I asked you to do, and that's where my frustration point was at that point.
It was best that they departed at that time. it was look, Miss Rita, it was best for everybody that they departed at that time.
Yeah, and then they didn't leave the house per se. I brought in the village, I talked to them, and I'm gonna tell you, the village came in and talked to them many, many days and nights. Days talked to them, but understanding that you have to stick to it
Yes.
And I'm tell you, that puberty, I can't tell you when it changed. I can't
Exactly.
put a time or date. I just woke up one day and I was like, they're not acting like that anymore.
Mm.
And I tell all moms, stick to your guns. Yes, they're gonna drive you crazy. Yes, you gonna want to just choke the life out of them. As a mom, and I'm seeing dads, and I'm like, see, why you gonna go up against him? And he's bigger than you. I
Hey,
get it.
listen, I totally understand, and those moments, to kind of answer this question, one of the hardest moments for me in being a father is watching them grow in the world that they went out into. When they were, high school and before college, it wasn't that they were sheltered, but I was kind of leery about where they went. I wanted to know who they hung out with. Where were you going? There's certain parts of, and we all from Jersey, there's certain parts of Jersey, that you just don't want your teenage sons, being around at that particular time. Because you don't know what could happen. So I was kind of a little bit overprotective about it. And then the kickback to that was that when they went away to college, one went to Iowa, then Ohio, and then New York, one went to New Hampshire, then New York, they got introduced to a world that they hadn't seen in high school.
Yeah.
They got introduced to a different thing. And when they came home, I saw bits and pieces of that. Because I wasn't out there in their new world. That 4 or 5 year period where change started to happen, with young people out there, they were a part of that. They were impactful and a part of that. I still, was stuck in where I was. I wasn't out there. I didn't know that these things happen. If I didn't get a glimpse of it on the news, or I didn't get a glimpse of it here or somewhere on social media, I was like, really? That's what's happening. But because they're out there in that environment, they saw it. And so for me, those were the hardest moments. Because then they would come home and it would be kind of like a foreign language. They would start talking about things and I'm like, really? Now, there were times where I would comment on it and I would get put in my place and my boys would be like, nah, Pop, that ain't it. Nah, Dad, that's not it. That's not it. Really? I thought it was. Nah, Dad, that's not it. That's not it. And then they would say, well, yeah, that was a different time when you were our age, Dad, back in the 80s and, that was a different time. This is something totally different. And they're right. They are 100% right because factually, physically, they were in it. My whole thing was sitting back watching it from afar, getting secondhand information. Like you said, Larry, you were giving them information. Well, I was getting secondhand information. Like, what? Really? Surprise after surprise. Now, I always used to tell my son, I do not like surprises. Please don't surprise me with anything. Just ease it to me, and with respect, they've done that. So that's why those things were hard for me. Yeah, that's why those things were hard for me. And I can say that being a black father, dad, and a king now, with what's transpired, the past, let me see, hope we didn't go out. Didn't go out on me. Boom, I think it did. Oh. Think it did.